You know that feeling when you walk into a high-end boutique and it just instantly feels exclusive, kind of moody and dramatic? And then, maybe an hour later, you stroll into a massive big-box hardware store and suddenly you're hit with this super bright, energizing vibe? Well, you might think you're just picking up on subjective vibes, but actually, it's all highly calculated. Welcome to our explainer on the ANSI/IES recommended practice for lighting retail spaces. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden mathematics and the psychology behind store lighting. We're going to look at the exact lux level standards for different types of stores, and we'll break down the specific highlighting techniques retailers use to totally control your shopping journey. Think about the absolute stark contrast between a flatly lit warehouse and a dramatic fashion boutique. It's not just some artistic whim from a designer somewhere. It's literally governed by the precise science of lighting. As the standards manual points out, there are all these different factors driving these choices. Things like the price point of the merchandise, what the customer expects, and the exact demographic the retailer is trying to hook.
So, here's our agenda for today's explainer. First, the secret psychology of store lighting. Then, the illumination curve, discount versus boutique. Next, lux standards for store types, followed by the power of accent lighting, the 5-to-1 highlighting technique, and finally, designing the retail future.
Section 1. The secret psychology of store lighting. How light shapes shopper perception.
Section 2. Illumination curve, discount versus boutique. The inverse relationship of retail light.
See, retail lighting actively sets the stage for your entire shopping experience. It's managing your expectations before you even say a single word to a salesperson. And to actually pull this off, there's this fascinating, complete inverse relationship between general lighting and accent lighting. In a discount warehouse, they blast the general illumination to the absolute maximum, with basically zero accent lighting. But the second you step into a designer boutique, the whole relationship flips. They intentionally drop that ambient light way down to create shadows and drama, while cranking up the accent lighting to hyper-focus your attention.
Section 3. Lux standards for store types. The exact numbers behind the glow.
Okay, instead of getting bogged down in dense manuals, let's look at the actual lux level standards for these different store types. Lux, by the way, is just how we measure illuminance. So check this out. A typical fitting room and a checkout counter actually share a really strict target of 300 to 400 lux. That's the sweet spot so you can accurately see the color of a shirt and easily read your receipt. But an upscale boutique, they might push that fitting room target up to 500 lux so you get perfect visibility on high-end tailoring. Meanwhile, back in the stockroom, far away from the customer's eyes, the required lighting drops down to a dim 150 lux. So they're literally putting their lighting dollars exactly where your eyes are.
Section 4. The power of accent lighting. Guiding the shopper's eye. Now, if general lighting is all about passive visibility, accent lighting is basically a psychological magnet. Instead of just washing out a whole room with flat light, they use narrow beam distributions to provide aggressive, sharp contrast. This is the exact technique that makes a leather jacket look unbelievably supple or makes a diamond practically jump out at you. It reaches out, grabs your attention, and guides your eye exactly where the store wants it to go.
Section 5. The 5-1 highlighting technique. The golden ratio of retail display.
So how do they highlight the merchandise so perfectly? Well, here is the industry's absolute golden rule, the 5-to-1 illuminance ratio. To make an item truly irresistible to a shopper, that featured merchandise must be illuminated exactly 5 times brighter than its immediate surroundings. This specific ratio creates an instant visual hierarchy. It's basically silently commanding your brain to say, hey, look at this right here is important.
But to hit that precise 5-to-1 highlighting ratio without completely blinding you in the process, lighting designers have to rely on a very specific hardware arsenal. We're talking fully recessed adjustable lights totally hidden in the ceiling, incredibly versatile track lighting with narrow beam spreads, and these complex multi-lamp fixtures that are designed to flawlessly sculpt the light right around the product. When you're in a high-end environment, all this hardware works in total stealth mode. You get this incredibly consistent, concentrated white light hitting the mannequins, achieving that perfect 5-to-1 ratio against the much softer background. And meanwhile, the ceiling above you remains completely clean and upscale. The hardware is doing all the heavy lifting, but it's practically invisible to the shopper.
Section 6. Designing the retail future. Unified brand identity through light. The ANSI standards specifically remind us that these lighting elements never act alone. It's all about creating a unified design to completely enhance the store's image. So whether we're talking about hitting that 300 lux standard in the fitting room or perfectly executing a 5-to-1 spotlight on a new seasonal display, the entire system is basically a theater stage built specifically for your shopping experience.
When a retail space perfectly balances that illumination curve, keeping the ambient lux low and super warm while using really tight spotlights to make the merchandise the absolute hero of the room, it leverages that 5-to-1 highlighting ratio just beautifully. It draws you in from the very second you walk past the storefront.
So the next time you're walking through a mall, or maybe if you're even designing your own retail space, take a second to just look up. Seriously, ask yourself, is the lighting simply letting people see the floor, or is it actively telling them what to buy? Because the science of retail lighting is shining right down on you.